Hey folks, this is Abel James, and thanks so much for joining us on the Fat Burning Man Show, where we talk about real food and real results. Is fat good or bad for us? I can't think of a better man to talk to about fat than best-selling author, documentarian, and host of the Fitness Confidential podcast, our friend Vinnie Tortorich. This multi-talented maniac created the hit documentary Fat, and as usual, he holds no punches in today's interview. Before we get there, here's a quick note that came in from Rich. He says, "Hi Abel, I have listened to your podcast and believe it or not, I've lost 17 pounds during this pandemic. It is amazing what happens when you eat natural foods, don't eat out much, and exercise. Thank you for all of your information, Rich." Rich, you hit it on the head right there. That's amazing. Pretty simple, right? Eat natural foods, don't eat out much, and exercise. If you just do those things, a lot of them now kind of built into our lifestyles, especially the not eating out part, whether we like it or not. If you put these simple things into action, even these small little things can add up to big results over the, length of a pandemic. And 17 pounds, Rich, my wife tells me in the show notes here that 17 pounds is about the weight of a 20-inch flat screen TV, almost the size of my monitor here. So I'm not going to pick it up, but I would imagine it's pretty nice to have that off your frame. So good on you for putting all of this into action. Now, if you're listening and you'd like to get in touch, if you have a question for me, if you'd just like to connect in any way, shoot me an email to abel@fatburningman.com. Another way you can get in touch, probably the easiest way, and we even get you some free meal plans and recipes and goodies if you do so, sign up for our newsletter. Just go to fatburningman.com, enter your best email address. You can go to fatburningman.com/bonus if you want and get the email sign up right there. And I'll send you a 7-day meal plan, a bunch of our favorite recipes, and much more. You'll also be signed up for exclusive discounts on our courses, our membership, our coaching, as well as Wild Superfoods. And speaking of Wild Superfoods, if you're looking for the best supplements out there, the ones that we trust, our family company, the supplements we literally take on a daily basis to optimize our health, Wild Superfoods is where it's at. We're always running deals and discounts you can just go to from any device, wildsuperfoods.com. But in particular, today, it's so important that people make sure that their vitamin D levels are topped up. Now, one way you can do that, one thing that I try to do, is get out and get the first rays from the sunshine in the morning. Hopefully you live in a place where the sun comes out. I've lived in places where the sun rarely comes out. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, so I get that. So getting sun, you don't need that much, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day is all you really need to optimize your health. Now, one hedge against vitamin D deficiency, which can result in so many different problems down the road, is through supplementation. And we've focused not on getting the sexiest, craziest supplements out there and selling them through Wild Superfoods, but instead the foundational supplements, the ones that are very important to take and make sure that you're not deficient in. And so vitamin D stack is not just vitamin D3, but also a combination of cofactors that we offer from Wild Superfoods. With each capsule and vitamin D stack, you're not only getting vitamin D3, but it's also balanced with fat-soluble vitamins A, E, K1, and K2. And if you'd like to pair it with a deep sea wild fish oil combined with other omegas, check out Mega Omegas. And you can even get a bundle from Wild Superfoods with different discounts. If you're interested in vitamin D in particular, we've got a discount running right now. You can go to wildsuperfoods.com/vitamin D. Just spell it out. wildsuperfoods.com/vitamin D. And we'll set you up with a discount there. And don't forget, just sign up for our email list and you'll get access to these discounts too. That's all at fatburningman.com. And one more quick note. We're doing our best to get out there on pretty much every platform, but independent creators, whether we like it or not, are getting buried, and it's harder to find us than ever. So to the extent that you can, we would love for you to share this free show and our other work, our books, our programs, our coaching, and all the rest of it. Not just for me, but also independent creators like Vinnie and other people I have on this show. Don't forget to click like, share. The biggest way over the years that we have grown is through word of mouth and from people sharing information with other people. And that's what social media was supposed to be all about before it was hijacked. That's what the internet used to be. So let's bring that back and bring some humanity into all of this. and the independent creators out there, and I speak for a lot of us, gym owners, authors, online creators of every kind, it's difficult. So if you can support us monetarily, that's awesome. But I understand also it's very difficult times for a lot of people out there. So don't forget that you can also support us just by forwarding one of our emails, by sharing this show with a friend, by clicking like, subscribe, and all the rest of it. We really appreciate it now more than ever. All right, on to the show with our friend Vinnie Tortorich. We're chatting about how to stay fit or even get fit during lockdown, the scoop on Vinnie's hit new film, Fat, a documentary, what to do about increasing censorship of independent creators like us, and tons more. Let's go hang out with Vinnie. All right, folks, returning to the show today is best-selling author, documentarian, and host of the Fitness Confidential podcast. Vinnie Tortorich has been a personal trainer for more than 3 decades, working with everyone from at-home moms to Hollywood celebrities. And he is very angry that your good intentions have been stolen. Vinnie, thanks so much for coming back on the show, man.
Hey, Abel, I feel like we're old friends, man. We've been doing this for like 8 or 9 years now. And it's funny, just listening to you give me an introduction is a little strange because when I started this, I was still training people full time. That was my job. I didn't do anything else. And so that was true. And you could have called me a podcaster, but people kind of laughed at podcasters 8 or 9 years ago.
They did, yeah.
They all thought we were, like Travis Bickle in our mother's basement.
Yep.
Kind of, but you know what I mean? It was like, I'm doing a show down here. It's like that kind of weird thing. If you said podcast to people, they just automatically thought, what is that, like a ham-operated radio? What is this loser talking about?
For sure.
Now, I'll show up somewhere goes, this guy's a podcaster, and they'll go, really? What's it like? How do you guys do it? People are interested in it. Once they did Google CarPlay in cars, and people started buying those cars, and they had a few years to find it. We became more popular. Maybe you have a different view on it, but now I look at it and I go, wow, he's right. I'm a podcaster, and that's actually kind of cool now, with the kids.
Yeah, man. I think it was actually Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel were talking about this way back, where they said that, what it used to be is ABC, NBC, and CBS and the rest of them. You just get a few. And what it's turning into is more just like people with 30,000 followers or 10,000 or 100,000 or a million or whatever. And it's just like all these kind of like little niches and communities doing it together instead of these 1, or 3 people broadcasting to everyone. And I think that's true.
Yeah. And, the world has changed because of it, in light, and I know this isn't coming out for several weeks, but in light of what's going on right now, we're at a crossroads. This is being covered on, what's the date today? The 11th of June. So we're at a crossroads of COVID-19 and this Black Lives Matter thing is cropped up because of this murder of this poor black man. And, the world is different. And Serena and I were talking about it. She goes, why is it just to be such more? Everything seems to be so much more. We used to call it the flu. Now we call it COVID-19 is going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And in fact, now looking back on it, wait a minute, it didn't kill everyone. And we were supposed to be locked down, but then something bigger happened. So now we're doing that. And she goes, how does it happen so fast? And I said, it's this little 2x4-inch piece of glass that we all have sitting next to us. We're all Walter Cronkite in our own world now. Does anyone know who Walter Cronkite is? We're all Peter Jennings. Wait, I don't know who he is either. Pick one of the ones that are around today. Don Lemon, I guess. I don't know. We're all Don Lemon. So, that's where we are now. Everybody has their own little media outlet, and it's so damn portable. We could take it anywhere, and I like it. Good things come out of it, bad things come out of it. But all in all, I like the process of everyone gets to have a vote type of thing. I could be completely wrong, by the way.
Well, I like the idea of that. I think the issue is, and this is another thing that we're actually going to plan on talking about today, is how the internet is hijacked. How it started out as like, you'd pick up a phone, you'd call one other person or you'd text one other person. Now there are all these different platforms and intermediaries and feeds, and like you're connected in this group with your friends, but one of them may be shadow banned, or like he's not allowed to post today, or like, or someone else might be completely censored, or they just don't participate in that one platform because they don't agree with what the founder stands for or whatever. So they're only on this other platform. And so you have these people who are, we're in these separate groups. We're kind of separated. We're connected, but it's also co-opted. Like the message a lot of times is co-opted by marketing. And I know you have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, look, I saw it in a big way, with the movie, the Fat, the documentary movie.
Great, by the way. Everyone go watch Fat, the documentary. Easy to find, great to watch. Or at least it used to be easy to find. Keep going.
It is still easy to find, but at the beginning, we got pushed around pretty good. It first went up on 3 platforms. I think it's on 68 different platforms.
Wow.
Excuse me. Now, and that's not counting, airliners, but no one's really flying right now still, but it's Steiner International put it on airlines all over the world. People say, hey, I was in, I was on Emirates Airlines, and there it was, and I was in India, and there it was. So when that kind of thing happens, you go, wow, the power of the internet. But when the first 3, when it was just Amazon, iTunes, and Vimeo put it up correctly and figured out a spot for it. iTunes put it up under documentaries, which was great. But Amazon accidentally put a movie called Fat, a documentary. The word documentary is in the title of the movie. They put it into like sports and leisure or something like that. And then I think it was into comedy for a while and action adventure. Every time they would call, because we sold this thing to a bigger company, to, a big distribution, Gravitas took it out. And I was on the phone with the president of Gravitas every day, and he was like, this is the darndest thing. They keep putting it in the wrong category. We keep telling them the movie's called Fat, a documentary. It's in fact a documentary. And by the way, I was in on every email going to Amazon, and they were like, oh yeah, our bad. And then they would put it in another wrong category. But you see, when a movie like that comes out and people want to watch the movie, enough people went and searched it out and found it. And then Amazon couldn't deny what was going on. They went, oh, wait, this idiot does have an audience and people do care about this idea, right? So then they put us in documentaries. It's shot right to the top of documentaries, and then they put it in Amazon Prime, which is kind of like, being, on Netflix, if you will, because people really find it then. But it was a tough road to hoe. It was not, it didn't just happen, which is kind of weird and scary, and, that goes on.
Well, and there's not much we can do about that. And it attacks us from so many different directions. Amazon, for example, hosts our website and pretty much everyone's website. They sell all of the books at this point because they put all the mom and pops out of business in the competition. Now it's the same is true with documentaries and all these other various things. And so one company controlling all of those things, if they, for whatever reason, decide that they don't like you or you ticked them off or that you're not one of the chosen ones, they can bury you and make you disappear forever. And that is the scary part, because these platforms are doing that. And to your point, Vinny, thankfully, we both, I believe, experienced that from a bunch of different platforms, a bunch of different directions, as have a lot of our friends and peers. But the work that we've done, like you said, we've been doing this for a while, you a lot longer than I have. We've connected with a lot of people, and they don't forget losing 100 pounds and keeping it off, and reframing the way that they think about life and food and whatever. So no matter how much they try to bury us, we can still find each other. We just might need to try a little bit harder.
Well, and there's enough platforms to go around. But then there comes there's a different side of it. I don't know if you've experienced this one yet, but I, unbeknownst to me years ago, I ended up on Wikipedia. Like someone just told me on a tweet one day, "Hey, dude, you got a Wikipedia page," and I was, how does that happen, right? And so I went on the Wikipedia, and there I was. And when I figured, I found out what happened and how I ended up with a Wikipedia page. My hometown, most towns around America may have a Wikipedia page, and they mentioned famous people from Donaldsonville. Now, you don't have to do anything very famous when you come from a town on the bayou. Basically, if you cut the longest fart, you could be one of the more famous people in that town, right? So yeah. You don't actually have to be famous. And Donaldsonville had a Wikipedia, and they mentioned famous people, and most of them were football players that either made it to college and or to the pros.
Yeah.
As the people, and my hometown had a lot of guys that went pro, football.
Yeah.
And for a small town, that's kind of heady, but it's the deep South, and everybody plays ball and what have you. But I wrote a best-selling book, so that, like I said, I beat the guy who's farting in town. So by definition, you write a bestseller. And by the way, it was my second book, so I was an author of 2 books. I wrote a children's book before. I guess someone thought, hey, Vinny's one of the more famous people that came from here, and they put me in that Wikipedia. Because of that, one of my nephews, I found out later, one of my nephews started my Wikipedia page, but then students of mine from Newman School, where I taught, the Manning kids who, Peyton Manning and all those kids.
Yeah.
Those kids started adding to it. And then some other people saw it and started going, oh, he used to train playmates in Beverly Hills. I was one of the playmates, and she added to it. And then some of the people went, oh, yeah, he also trained all these actors. And so my Wikipedia page, and it also said that I was in a relationship with Serena Scott Thomas, the woman who's been my partner in life now for 12 years, right? Oddly enough, my Wikipedia page was pretty sturdy, and they had almost every fact correctly. The only fact that was not correct in my whole Wikipedia is that they said that I was friends with Michael Chiklis, who I've never met. Don't ask. Michael Chiklis, the guy who plays the commish. I don't know the guy. Huh. Yeah, I've never met him. And so that Wikipedia got added to over the years, and it was pretty robust. And then one day, somebody on Twitter, because I learned everything from Twitter, said, hey, man, your Wikipedia page just went away. And I was like, oh, there you go. And then he wrote back, he goes, as a matter of fact, it went away. And there's a new page called Rational Wiki, and they have a really bad review of you up there. I was like, how did all that happen? So I went on, and sure enough, my Wikipedia page has gone away. And there was something called Rational Wiki that pretty much called me a nut in every which way you could call someone a nut. And so in that Serena Scott Thomas's page, it was still up, but I was erased from being in her life on her page, right? They reverted back to her ex-husband as the relationship, her last relationship. And I went to the Donaldsonville page, my hometown, wiped off of that. So you tell me what happened.
I'll tell you, Vinny, that it happened to me too. Sounds like it happened around the same time. When I did that TV show on ABC, it did really well. Millions of people watched it. So some of them made a Wikipedia page for me. And the Wild Diet also did really well that year. It was number 7 in Google Trends. And then A similar thing happened. My Wikipedia page was deleted. Our traffic going to our website, millions and millions of people, 90% of them disappeared, gone, dried up. My social media accounts that all had at the time around 30, 40, 50,000, maybe 100,000 followers. It's like someone hit the pause button 2 or 3 years ago, and all of my accounts have either stayed the same or lost followers ever since then. And so I can't tell you exactly what happened, Vinny, but I can tell you it's happened to me, and it's happened to a lot of other people we know. And I was wondering, what is that? Did somehow someone decide that we are activists instead of health people at some point or something, and they want to prevent us from saying crazy stuff? Or is it someone had this comment that came on my blog and said this? They said, it's so funny, Abel, that you're considered alternative now and a rebel because all these things our grandparents just used to do. It was common sense. And I think that's what's also happening, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because my podcast can generate over 1 million downloads a month. I'll do 5 shows a week, right? So you look at that and you go, okay, there's got to be a couple of 100,000 people paying attention. But just like you, my Twitter account seems to stay right at 30 something thousand people.
Same as John Durant, same as me. Rob Wolf has that. It's like somewhere in 20 and 30, they're like, nope, you stop right here and nobody sees you anymore.
Further, I just did the Instagram thing about a year or two ago, and it went from 0 to, after a couple of days, a couple of thousand, then a few more thousand. Within a few months, it was 15, 16, 17,000. You hit a certain number, and then all of a sudden, it's like, bloop, enough. And it all just levels off. It just stops. And, I mean, okay, well, why is everything else doing great, right? How can I measure these algorithms over here? My Amazon numbers keep going up based on, the number of sales I get through my website. So and I see the number of people coming in on the podcast, yet everything else stops and goes in reverse a little bit. And you sit there and you go, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And by the way, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, his Wikipedia apparently went away the same day mine went away.
Wow.
I've had people contact them to say, hey, what happened here? And they said, we couldn't substantiate anything about this guy.
Right. That's what they said about me, too. There was like no proof. I couldn't prove that I was me or something. And it's like, pretty sure I'm me. I'm pretty sure all this stuff happened. Here are all the links on the New York Times, on ABC, on Fox. Like, here are all the links. Some of those disappeared, too. In fact, some of those things that list, the 100 most influential people in health, those have also disappeared.
Yeah, they just go away. They just magically go away. So if you're trying to tell me it's a fair game, it's not. It's not. At first, they left us alone because they were like, oh, they'll just tire out. This is just a fad, and it's going to go away. But it's not a fad, and it's not going away. And it's because of people like yourself and me and a bunch of others. You just mentioned, we're pushing this ahead. It's like, hey, you guys can take your little platforms and go home. Guess what? If you guys are going to do that to your platforms, other platforms are going to come and start kicking your ass because everything keeps moving. And when the next platform comes up, if I see it first, you can better believe I'm going to be calling the Abel Jameses of the world. And I'm sure if you see the next platform, you'll be calling the Vinnie Tortoriches of the world, because we were all here 8, 9 years ago. As I tell people today, I was afraid back then to use the word ketogenic because everyone would have said, oh, these people are crazy. That's ketoacidosis. They're going to kill you, which is nothing could be further from the truth. Right. But that was a scary word. When I wrote Fitness Confidential, you got to figure it was written about 10 years ago now when I was doing the actual writing.
Yeah.
I did not want the word ketogenic to show up in it.
Yeah.
That was a scary thing.
Yeah. I still don't use that word. I rarely use keto I rarely used paleo too. though, after a time. You know, when you start to see these things going in wacky directions, words become hairy. You're very great with words, especially someone with comedic talent like you knows how important it is to be precise with your words, to be accurate when you can, and also that the same word can have multiple, and sometimes opposite meanings. And one of the problems I think that's happened recently is people have different meanings for these words, and they're trying to have conversations over social media, and they're getting more divided than ever. And instead of learning something like we're supposed to by connecting, we're just getting pissed and fighting.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way, you know. And I'm not sure why it has to be that way. I mean, one guy in the low carb community, I won't mention his name because I really don't have a problem with this guy, but he thought that I had done something to injure him furthering his career. And I won't even say what it is because it would give light as to who the guy is. And he had me on his podcast, and I was just on a podcast promoting the movie, and he tried to hang me out to dry, and he caught me in that field. You know, I was like, I didn't know. First off, you got to understand, when he waited till the end of the show and he brought the question up, and I didn't know what he was talking about. So I kind of went, what? What are you saying now? And dude, I have no idea. And I started stuttering because I had no idea what he was talking about. Like, it wasn't that I had some knowledge and I was trying to make up a story. I had zero knowledge of what he was talking about. So when he brought it up, I was like, yeah, I know that guy. But no, what you're asking me just didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I started looking at that and I go, man, are we starting to eat our own now? You know, I was doing a guy's show because, you know, as you know, you and I used to do this all the time. You do my show, it helps me and it helps you. I do your show, it helps me and it helps you. It just does. I was doing this guy's show because I want more people to see my movie, and it would help him to have me on his show. I'm content, right? But he thought it would be a good idea to make me never want to speak to him again. And that's insane. That's just insane.
Well, people are, like you said, they've all got their own little broadcast studios in their pockets now, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to handle that. And I think this is also something that we're seeing. You know, even in the CrossFit and paleo movements, people have ruined their careers in a tweet or one post. Like multiple people, multiple times, everyone's kind of doing it now. And I think one of the reasons is because we're not really prepared for the consequences of saying one thing one time and being on the hook for it forever, because it never used to be like that. That's not really fair necessarily. And especially when people are taken out of context, which is like Twitter especially loves to take things out of context. It's ridiculous. It makes us all look like idiots. But all the social media platforms do that. And it's really dangerous to everyone, because like even people who are my friends, sometimes they come at me. But the only time in that, as I recall, that's ever happened is when they misunderstood something that I said, or they got something that was only a tiny little piece with zero context. And that's extremely damaging now. Also, I want to say that people with the ability just to kind of tweet anything or say anything, be careful with that. Be very careful with that, because like Vinny, you were on TV. I was on TV. When you're on TV, you know you're on TV. There are 100 people there and all these cameras and red lights. When you're on your phone and you're a little drunk, or you know you're taking a number 2 or something like that, you want to think that it doesn't matter. It still matters though, and there are major consequences.
Yeah, you know, I've gotten hung out to dry a few times on Twitter by clicking like on something because,
right, me too.
As you know, I answer a lot of tweets every day, you know, and like almost every one of them that comes in, unless it's completely off base, and I'll just block them or just pass it by.
Dude, you're hilarious on Twitter. I love seeing you interact with people.
Some days I'm there and I want to start drinking it. And, you know, I'm going through really fast. And if you don't read all the way through, you might read blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes I'll press like and I'll go to the next one and I'll go, wait, did I just read that correctly? And I'll go back and go, oh, no, maybe I should take my little heart away from this one, because, you know, it could go in the wrong direction.
Yeah, sometimes I hit that little heart thing, but only because I want to save it for later or like keep track of it and I learned pretty quick, you're not supposed to do that, because like, I think it was Richard Nicolai, who's a friend of mine, but like known for dabbling in the edges. He's just like, I can't believe that Abel agreed with this stupid, you know, I can't even remember what it was, like some Democratic or whatever. It was not, I didn't agree with it. I'm just like, oh, look at this crazy stuff that this person just said. Like, let's keep that for later, because I don't want to lose track of this, but I also don't want to retweet it. I don't want to give it any juice, but I don't want to forget about it. And so that's another thing. Everyone uses these platforms a little bit differently, you know, but we don't know that.
Yeah, my thing is, and, you know, people ask me, it's like, how do you seem to always handle it really well. And usually if someone comes after me, usually it's the vegans, you know, it's one of the vegan doctors.
Yeah.
They'll come at me and they'll say something, and I'll just get in their face and go, F you. Just F you. And you know, you gotta fight crazy with crazy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna get in my face, I'm gonna get right back in your face. Now, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
You know, you want to keep taking a swim around this lake, or how do you want to handle this? Because I'll keep doing laps with you until you run out of gas. You know, and I'm not fun to with.
Yeah. Well, there are also different types of people who are interacting with you. And I've been, more than ever in the past couple months, especially as the world burns all around us, engaging with the haters. And they're either bots who are only there to be a bot army to make you look bad, and so they disappear, or they don't make any sense. Or they're people who are just trying to like get you to clarify a little bit. And most of those people who I've engaged with, now they're the ones, when other people misunderstand me, they get my back. Even though we started off disagreeing about this stuff, when you confront crazy with crazy, or you know, kind of like meet them where they are in their terms, I've been amazed by how many friendships have started that. The whole carnivore, like, before I met Paul Saladino and some of the other cool people in the movement, a bunch of carnivores came at me, I think, just because I was talking to a guy who was a dad on my podcast about dad bods, but since I'm not a dad, I can't talk about dad bods, and they started flaming me and all this stuff. But then, you know, like, engaging with them, they're all super cool people, and I've really enjoyed making some friends with these different, like, it's very cliquey, but you can become parts of these different cliques, and there are real people in there, and people forget that these aren't just names on Twitter. These are actual people. We cannot forget that, and people are definitely forgetting right now.
Yeah, I think it's too easy. You know, I used to say, you know, if you were at the state fair and someone got in your face, now you got someone in your face, you know, you're face to face, or you're at the football game and you're face to face. When we were in our cars, now you got, you know, you're in traffic. He would have to open his door. You would have to open your door, get out of the car. So it was easy just to, hey, flip them off and do all this kind of stuff. And everybody goes, oh, Fangul. And everybody moves on, right? Yeah. And you felt better because you flipped him off. He felt better because he flipped you off. And we all got on with our day. But when you have that extra layer of, I can't even see the person, and they just come at you, you know, they can add so much more vitriol in there.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when Twitter went from 140 characters to 240 characters, I said to Serena, this is a horrible day. And she goes, why? I said, because now people have twice the number of letters to show hate towards me. You know, it's just what it is, you know?
I guess so. Well, yeah. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it just be one-liners. You can have it just be one-liners, but then you can't have an actual conversation on that platform, right? Like, it's just for one-liners or whatever. When you start to make it a little bit more, and then people started nesting these conversations, but they get out of order, and some of them are censored, or not everyone sees them or stuff, it's such a mess, man. They did this on purpose. They're trying to get us all riled up and pissed at each other and break up our movements, you know? That's what I've decided after sometimes I take a year off from social media. I've done that a few times because it's good for you. But when I come back, I kind of see it with different eyes, and I'm like, okay, what has this become now? And it's a different beast. Every time I come back to these different platforms, they're completely different. Now they're all copying each other with exactly the same features, but they have their own little thing going. And I hope that someone comes and eats their lunch fast, because we deserve better than this. We deserve to connect with each other and have conversations on our own terms and be able to go long form when we need to. You know, that's one of the beautiful things about all this. And it's just such a mess. I think a lot of us are seeing all the problems that are here. One of the good things that's happening out of this, though, is I have never connected with more people in health, both who are just, you know, the people who read the books and listen to the podcast, and the leaders in health. I've never connected with so many in such a short a time as now, as in the past month or two. And that's going to be really powerful later. We're getting work done right now. We don't know exactly what's going to come of this, but we're not going away. No matter what happens, we are not going away. We're not giving up.
No, there is no give up here. It's, I'm working, people, after I did the first documentary, people said to me, well, why don't you do another documentary? And I was like, whoa, let's take a step back here. I'm not a filmmaker. Let's start with that. And I'm certainly not a documentarian, but we had a hit documentary by all stretches of the imagination. Gravitas, at first, the first couple of weeks they called and said, you have already become the #1 documentary we've ever released. Now, think
no
about
way,
Gravitas.
Man, that is so cool,
Yeah.
Vinny.
And then by the end of the first month, we had become the #1 selling movie that they ever sold. Across
Are you
all
kidding
genres.
me?
No, yeah, and we beat at the time we were beating Free Solo on iTunes. We stayed in that spot every day. It was just they had to teach me how to do that thing where you take photos.
It's
online.
tricky.
How do you do that?
Yeah, the screenshot. It always turns your
screenshot.
screen off. Yeah.
Yeah, because at first I had my assistant screenshot that, and no one will ever believe it. And so we were screenshotting us in front of Free Solo and us in front
Man.
of that movie and the whole thing. And then we went to number 6 or 7 overall on iTunes, and we say that screenshot, and like Avengers is below you on that list. It looks like a joke.
Yeah.
When you look at those screens, just look at it and go, that looks like a joke.
Yeah.
Right. And we're doing all of this, and and then people start going, what's your next documentary?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm shocked I got one out, #1. #2, I'm shocked that it's done what it's done.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked about all of it. But COVID-19, if anything for me that's come out of this that's any good, is it got me, I said when we shot the movie, I overshot it. Let me correct that. Peter Pardini and I overshot it because we knew what our narrative was going to be. But when you have a Nina Teichels and a Gary Taubes and an Eric Westman sitting down there, I could go through all the names, an Ivor Cummins and on and on and on. You don't just ask them the questions you want to ask them for this movie. You ask them a few extra 5 or 10 questions.
Yeah.
And these people can expound on those questions forever. So, Peter's moved on. Peter's an actual filmmaker, but I said, Peter, I'm going to just start going through this stuff because I have an idea for another movie that's completely different. It's going to be like Fat, a documentary. It's going to be completely different. And I want it to be more of a long form with these same people talking with this extra film. It turns out that in order to get it within 90 minutes, which is kind of the longest you want a documentary to be, that was Fat,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to cut at least 45 minutes out, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes to get it down to that.
Wow.
I may be doing, and I could be blowing smoke up my own ass here, but I may be doing a better movie than I've already put out with way more information. And I have ideas of how I'm going to put it out and what I'm going to do, I'm going to get around the powers that be and make sure that it ends up where it needs to end up. And on top of that, all the people who donated, because I'm putting my own money behind this, because I didn't have to go film it. I didn't have to go. I already have the film.
Yeah.
All the people who donated from the first movie, I'm putting their names in the second movie.
Wow.
It's like, you know what? This is still your film. This is just part 2. And that's the way it's going to be. And when this comes out in 6 weeks, we won't be there yet. It's still months away, but it's time for me to start talking. So you're kind of the first to hear this.
That is so amazing. I'm honored. And when we actually came across your documentary, it was through Amazon. I don't think it was on Prime yet. I think we had to pay for it, but it popped up, and I was so impressed with the way that it was shot. And I've met a lot of the people who were on your documentary in person, and man, like watching it, I'm just like, this is a legit documentary. When you know the people, it feels different, right? Like it feels like it shouldn't be as professional, but like sitting down watching you for that fireside chat, the way that it's shot was extremely visceral and powerful, and the way that it was edited was on point. Everyone who I saw speak looked very professional, and I can't wait to see how you would cut it up though. For longer form conversations, because one of the things I remember, like working on that ABC TV show, like they were filming us for 10 hours a day for like 8 weeks straight, and if they could have made 10 or 20 shows out of that footage of all sorts of different genres, comedy and drama and tragedy, whatever. And so I'd be really interested in watching the first documentary and then seeing what you come up with next, because that's an art form in itself.
Yeah, and look, I'm not, like I said, I'm going into documentary number 2, and I don't consider myself a filmmaker or a documentarian, but I am a storyteller. I proved that with Fitness Confidential. That book. You're a great writer, man. Sells.
That book influenced me so much more than you realize.
I appreciate hearing that. And, I know people, when someone gets cancer, they still hand that book out and the whole thing because there's a cancer story in it. And it was optioned by Sony for a few years, and I pulled the option away. I took the option back, but I'm not really a writer. I'm a storyteller. I could tell a story. I can weave a story. I grew up on the bayou. People would sit on front porches when I was a kid, and just weave these stories, right? And I remember as a kid thinking, if someone got in a car accident, the car accident happened that fast, right? It happens in an instant. So let's say the whole crash takes 2 seconds, right? Well, if you're sitting on a front porch with someone that had a crash earlier that day, and they're telling their story down south on the bayou, that story can take a good 90 minutes. Because they're going to start with, I woke up this morning, it was a great day. I poured a cup of coffee. There was a cardinal sitting right on the windowsill. They're not going to take you right to the crash. Not in Louisiana, not on the bayou. And you wrote about, you do songs about that. I've listened to Swamp Thing and all this. It's a story, and everyone will sit there and listen to the story and weave pieces into the story as that person is telling the story. Other people are weaving in. Now, Johnny, you never have a third cup of coffee. You start drinking beer before 10 o'clock, and they'll weave in whatever they weave in. Yeah. Right? And I grew up with that. So when I wrote Fitness Confidential, I sat there every day and said, what's the story? It's kind of like the book Forrest Gump. What's the story? Every chapter is different because the character in Forrest Gump goes and goes and goes. So when it was time to do a documentary, people say, oh, we take it to the woodshed. I took it to my ammo shed because I shoot, for your audience might want to know, I shoot competitively, shotguns and all that. And, I always take it to the ammo shed. I would go in my little shed and crank out a bunch of ammo because I need that. Yeah. And that's where I sat and wrote. I had Peter. Peter, he was like, I don't know about guns. I mean, can these things explode? I mean, what's happening? Yeah. Say, Peter, there's no gun here. It's just powder and ammunition. And so we sat in that shed, and I was cranking out ammunition saying, this is what the story is. This is how I want. And he saw the vision, so I think everyone was shocked that that first movie came out the way it did, because even Gary Taubes, when I called Gary, I said, Gary, would you be in my movie? And he said, why would I be? And I said, because I'm doing a movie about the ketogenic diet. You're at the, he said, but what do you know about making a movie?
Yeah.
And I said, Gary, you're absolutely right. But what did I know about writing a book or starting a podcast?
Yeah.
And without hesitation, he said, I'm in. I'm in. Because he knew that I wasn't going to put my name on.
Yeah.
Right. He knew at that moment, wait, yeah, this guy doesn't just plot it out there. Yeah, he tells jokes on his podcast to get people interested in health. Yeah, and that's what I did. But I'm not going to do movies in a serious movie where you have Nina Teichos and
Right.
Ian Phelps and Eric Westman showing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's a different format. Totally different format, and you're playing to the formats well, from where I'm standing anyway.
So the second movie is going to be, I think people are going to be shocked at what I'm doing in the second movie, because I'm going after some people.
Oh.
I'm going after some. It's not going to be as friendly, but I'm not going after actual names. I'm going after groups, and we're going to show the truth.
It's about time, because as some people are getting buried, there are a lot of people who are getting more juice than they might deserve, at least from my perspective, knowing some of the wonderful people out there doing strong work. And also, while you had the #1 movie out there, did your Twitter's followers go up? Did you see any extra traffic? It's like
Yeah, it's funny because it grew like overnight, like several thousand people.
Yeah.
And it just stopped.
Yeah.
So, and you said to yourself, because people are still, someone today on Twitter said, hey, it's because of your movie I've lost 50 pounds now, or it's because of your movie I went and looked into this and lost whatever. And because of my movie, they're not just finding me, they're finding you.
Yeah.
They're finding poor Mitch Rob Wolf.
That's a good point.
And they're finding Otmer Cummins, and they're finding all of us, because they'll go, let me go look into this low carb thing. They'll press that in, and oh, look at this sexy Abel James here with the body, and the whole thing. And they'll go look, But then, then all of a sudden, just like it started growing again, it just stopped again.
Yeah.
Which is odd.
It's odd. So I guess we've just got to keep doing the work. That's important. But I did want to ask you, Vinnie, because I know you're living in your own Airbnb, right? So you don't have your normal gym, your normal workout equipment, that sort of thing. I heard you talking about a rowing machine. And did you find one? I'm not sure if I got the whole story there.
Believe it or not, I was telling Serena, today is like the best Christmas I've ever had. June 11th. A shotgun that I started working on 8 months ago with Cole's Gunsmithing down in Florida. They're the best gun. Rich Cole is the best gunsmith in the world when it comes to building competition shotguns. And I had to fly down there, and it's like building a tailored suit to fit you. You got to get the stock carved and everything.
Yeah.
And that gun, because of COVID, got held up. I was supposed to get it 3 months ago. COVID started. The gun is finally in my possession. It's sitting right next to me right here.
Nice.
It just came in.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm going to show you my gun. You want to see my gun?
Yeah, let's see it.
This is what I've been working on. Can you see this? This is what I've been working on with Cole's Gunsmithing. Is got a DT11.
Look at that. What kind of wood is that?
It's a Turkish or an English walnut.
It's beautiful.
And it was. We had to pick the wood. We had to carve the wood to fit my face. It was just a big chunk of wood, right? And we had to carve it all to fit me and the whole thing, because competition, it's like a competition road bike. If everything doesn't fit correctly, it just doesn't fit correctly. So we got the whole gun to fit and what have you. And then the COVID thing happened. We had to send it off to Italy so it could be inletted to the gun and all this kind of weird stuff. And so the gun just got to me. It just showed up today. UPS. 1 hour later, Concept 2 said, it's your turn to order your Concept 2. And I ran into the other room. I said, Serena, this is like, I feel like a kid and Christmas just happened. You know, because I've been without a rowing machine for 3 months, and you know, exercise is my life, you know, and I'm tired of doing, you know, the just the spinner and the bike on the rollers and the whole thing. And so I'm getting mine. Are you on the list, or where are you with it?
No, I haven't tried one of those, but I was gonna say that I got one a while back. It was only like, I think $150, $200. I was looking at different rowing machines. This one's very small, and it's not like legit rowing, but it's more resistance with these like little piston things. It's right over there. I guess I could bring it over. But I've been so impressed with some of the different workout equipment that's been pretty cheap and super reliable that we've used on the road over the years. Like, you can't really beat a kettlebell, and you can't beat free weights, but even those aren't that useful sometimes. But if you can throw something in your car, especially like the thing that's hardest is getting the pull, right? Because you don't usually get, especially if you're at an Airbnb or a hotel, you don't get pull-ups, you don't get rows. And those are the things, for me anyway. I've kind of a messed up back because I was too small to play football and played for a little while. And so if I don't get that back motion and really balance my front and my back, it jacks me up. So anyway, I was just going to say, like, it's important to get those rows in. I'm psyched that you finally got that, because I miss it when I don't have it, for sure.
Yeah, it's, you know, all of my aerobics has been go outside, run up the hill, hike, that kind of thing. Or I bought some Kreitler rollers. They work. I just used them, and that's why I'm still kind of sweating. I just used them an hour ago. See, the other reason I put a cap on, I was like all sweaty.
Yeah.
I tried to put a shirt on. But, you know, I got my rollers, and I can just put something on my computer in front of me and just get on those rollers and spin for an hour. But, you know, you need more, you know, and I'm a fitness guy, and I love my rowing and the whole thing. You know, I'm happy I'll be getting one of those now. You know, so it's all good.
Good for you, man. Well, I think you've worked with so many different people. You could probably speak to the fact that we all need to find our little thing. Some people love the elliptical, some people love the rowing machine, some people love running outside, but it's not going to be the same for everybody. But you've got to like identify what those things are. And then when you have to move, or like you have to sell your gear, you don't have your gym again, don't feel bad about maybe buying that thing again, or making sure that you have whatever that thing is that allow those new running sneakers, right? Like, don't be ashamed if you love running to go and invest in yourself. I know that me, maybe it's just the way I was raised or something, but I'm very like shy about buying things for myself sometimes, but it's so worth it when you're talking about things like that.
Yeah, you know, fitness is my life. I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to a gym. You know, it's like, wow, I've bought all this equipment, and when I end up in a permanent house, it won't be so much of a jailhouse gym. I'm gonna have a whole bedroom or something I'm gonna take for myself, and just put it into a gym. You know, you're right. You know, investing in yourself, investing in your health, and getting back to what you were saying about some people like to run, some like to row, some like elliptical. I'm always asked the question, what is the best aerobic exercise? And my answer is, it's the one you will do. You know, because you would have to hold a gun to my head to get me on an elliptical machine. I hate those things.
Right.
But they're a great way to get a good sweat on, you know, and meanwhile, I'll get on the treadmill and just, if there's a football game on and that game goes for 2.5 hours, I'll be on there for 2.5 hours. I'm good. I'm good. Nowhere else to go. You know, I might as well be doing this, you know. So it just depends. And jumping rope, you know, jumping rope is the cheapest thing. I write about it in Fitness Confidential. It's the cheapest thing you can do. Yeah, a rope is zero if you just go outside and find a piece of rope.
Yeah.
Or if you want to buy an expensive one, well, you can find one for $30, but you can really get a nice one for $5 to $10, like a leather rope, $10, right? Yeah, and that thing will last a long time. I've worn them out to where, you know, they just break in the middle. It's in my lifetime, I've worn rope after rope. I love jumping rope, skipping rope. And
What surface do you jump on, Vinny?
lately, I've been jumping on a because of COVID. I have a horse mat. It's a horse stall mat because I bought that. So it's rubbery. It's not hard, but it's a hard rubber. It's about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. It's made for horses to stomp on in the stall. It goes underneath their hay or their wood chips. But it's not my favorite thing to jump on. Giving my druthers, and when I get a proper home, I'm going to build a wooden squat platform.
Okay.
And that's going to be even more give.
Yeah.
And it's probably have rubber on top of that.
Yeah.
Also. How about you? Do you jump?
Well, I used to jump a little bit, but it's not something that I do often. I do run pretty often, though. Like, the reason I ask is because when I run on different surfaces, it completely changes the experience. Like, I almost never run on hard top, especially anymore. And thankfully out here, running, most of the roads are kind of squishy and sandy, and then I go up even higher in the mountains, and it's you get that spring instead of that smash, and there's such a big difference. The reason I ask you is because you're one of the people who has kept up with training in a bunch of different modalities and ways over the years, but like, my joints in my 30s do feel different than my joints in my 20s, and so I want to make sure I'm not wearing myself out. So what's the balance there for people who are kind of training maybe in different ways right now, because we're all, making concessions, but what's a good way to make sure that you're not churning through your joints and burning yourself out or wearing yourself out?
Well, one thing you kind of mentioned it. When I run, Serena's the same way. Even though some of her races, Serena does ultras sometimes. And that means you're putting a lot of miles in. She's 58. She's going to be 59 this year.
Wow.
We like off-road better because the surface is always changing. You have to watch where you're stepping. Nothing is even. And you have to be on your quote-unquote toes a bit more. So I prefer that over anything else. Number two, most important, is, we mentioned some people can get on the elliptical and go. Well, when you're on the same thing, it's kind of like being on a bicycle. Even cyclists will tell you need to change it up a bit, because you could get these overuse injuries just by doing the same thing. And by the way, just like the treadmill, for me, a bicycle can become the same problem.
Right.
When I'll just churn that bad boy out day in and day out. So I'm so happy that I'm finally getting an elliptical machine here. Yeah, elliptical.
Yeah.
Because you have to do something different. You have to change it up. If I find myself doing the spinner, I'm pointing to it. But if I find myself doing the rollers too many days in a row, I'll just go up the hill. There's a hill a half a mile from my house. It's a mile-long hill. I might do it 2 or 3 times, come home, right? Or I'll come home and do the jump rope afterwards, just pound my body a little bit, just get a little vibration in those bones, because people think of bones as being like steel girders in a building, that, once your bones are done, they're done. They can end up with atrophy like any other muscle in your body, and you don't want that to happen. You want to do weight-bearing exercises. So a bicycle is not weight-bearing. Swimming is not weight-bearing. So you want to do things. Elliptical is weight-bearing, right? And it's easy weight-bearing. So if you're the type of person who might have bad knees, do more elliptical. Do some walking, but do more elliptical. So you have to kind of judge, am I doing the same thing all the time? Should I change it up for a minute?
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's all.
Cool. So it's important to be honest about that too, right? Because it's easy to fall into that groove, like you said, to just keep doing that same thing. It's a challenge to actually upset that a little bit.
Guilty as charged. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd be on the bike every day, just the bike. And you talk to the greatest cyclists in the world, they'll say, "Oh, we do plyometrics, we skip rope, we go for runs." You have to. You have to. Otherwise, you your hip bones and everything would just atrophy. It's just not good.
Yeah. Well, Vinnie, we're coming up on time, but before we go, please tell folks about, you have so many projects now, but where can they find you? Fat the Documentaries, let's start with that and then go for the rest of it.
Fat the Documentary is on Amazon Prime. It's on Vimeo. It's on iTunes. If you live in some foreign land where you don't get some of those things, look around because it's on 60 some odd other VODs. So you can find Fat the Documentary everywhere. If you don't mind putting a link to something where they can find.
Oh yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, you can go to VinnieTortorich.com, TORTORICH, and find me there. I'm on Twitter, whether you see me there or not. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. All that kind of stuff. The book is still out there. Fitness Confidential. The podcast is called Fitness Confidential. So go check it all out. It's all there.
Anyone who's watching or listening, please check out Vinnie's work. One of the things I like about it is you show up in all these different domains, platforms, places, documentaries, books, and you seem to know how to best utilize each one of them. Your book is an excellent book. Your documentary is an excellent documentary. Your podcast, same deal. And they're all so different. So everyone watching and listening, please check out Vinnie's work. And Vinnie, thank you so much for connecting with us. I always love talking with you.
Love being on, brother. Whenever you want to come on my shows, you know where to find me.
Hey folks, this is Abel James, host of the Fat Burning Man Show and New York Times bestselling author. And this is just a quick little video about vitamin D stack from our family company, Wild Superfoods. So what this is a combination of different nutrients that are cofactors with vitamin D or D3. So when you take one capsule of vitamin D stack, you're getting vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, as well as high gamma mixed tocopherols and vitamin E isomers. And it also pairs quite well with mega omegas as a source of fat to help you absorb these nutrients when you're getting them at the same time. So I've been taking vitamin D stack with my wife and family for many years now. This is one of my favorites, very reliable. We take it on the road. It's not too much trouble. It's not big or bulky, and we really like it. We've done our best to curate the highest quality source of lab-tested nutrients for you folks, and so we can't wait to hear what you think. Once again, this is Abel. Drop a line anytime, and I look forward to hearing from you. Well, hey there, listener. This is Abel one more time, and I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Fat Burning Man Show. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you might be listening to or watching this show right now. And if you have a second, please leave me a quick review for the Fat Burning Man Show. I read every single one of them, and every time you leave a review, it gives us a little boost in the rankings, and that helps other people find this show. And if you can think of someone else who might enjoy and benefit from this free show, please take a second to share it with a friend or a family member. And if they're like, what is this Fat Burning Man thing? That's a really silly name. You could be like, you're right, but here's the deal. We've recorded over 250 episodes of the Fat Burning Man Show with thought leaders in health from all over the world. And so far, we've won 4 awards, hitting #1 in health in more than 8 countries internationally. We have more than 30 million downloads already, but we're just getting started. I can't believe any of this, by the way, and couldn't do any of this without you, so thanks once again. But here's some more good news. You can download and listen to every single episode of the Fat Burning Man Show for free with 0 outside advertisements, no outside sponsors, and no corporate overlords. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com. We'll give you a second here just to type it in, fatburningman.com. And you'll get all the show notes, transcripts, and video and audio versions for all the past episodes of the Fat Burning Man Show for free. Better yet, enter your email at fatburningman.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll even send you a quick start guide so you can take your health into your own hands right now, along with a few of our ridiculously tasty recipes as a special thanks for signing up. Once again, just go to fatburningman.com right now Enter your best email to get your free goodies with a bonus surprise straight to your inbox. This is Abel James signing off. Thank you so much for listening once again, and have a great week.